You want to know what the real poison is? It's comfort. It's that soft, suffocating silence in your life that tells you you're okay, but you're not. You're not even close. You've been asleep with your eyes wide open, smiling for people who would laugh at your corpse. You've been shaking hands with devils wearing cheap perfume and calling it loyalty. I mean, look at you, dragging your soul through the dirt just to be seen, to be heard, to be enough for people who wouldn't even bleed for you. Pathetic, isn't it? You gave them time. You gave them truth. You gave them your silence. And what did they give back? Mockery, rejection, indifference. You sat quietly while they broke you in pieces and passed you around like gossip. So tell me, how's that working out for you? How's it feel to be the nice one, the patient one, the one who kept forgiving when they deserved your absence? You're dying slowly every day. You try to fit into a world that eats kindness alive. You think being calm means they'll eventually see your worth. They won't. They see silence as weakness. They see forgiveness as clearance to hurt you again. That's the world you live in. That's the game they play. You're just a pawn trying to hold on to dignity in a system that rewards wolves. You see, people don't care until they need something. And once they get it, they forget you. They forget the times you answered late at night. The times you picked up the phone when your own world was falling apart. They don't remember how much it cost you to carry their pain. They only remember how easy it was to leave you when they healed. That's the truth you need to swallow raw. No sugar, no apology. Just truth, served cold. And yet here you are, still hoping, still waiting. Waiting for what? A miracle? A sign? You think the world's gonna suddenly realize it messed up? You think they'll come back crying, begging, saying, I didn't know what I had? Please. People don't regret losing you until you've built a life they can't enter. They don't respect the quiet ones until the quiet becomes dangerous. So you better get dangerous. You better sharpen every scar they gave you and wear it like war paint. You better stop asking why they hurt you and start asking why you tolerated it. Pain isn't the punishment, it's the teacher. And you've been in class for a long, long time. So when are you going to graduate? You think this world runs on fairness? No, it runs on dominance, on control, on calculated silence and strategic explosions. You need to stop trying to be understood. You're not a quote on their Instagram stories. You're not a sad song they'll loop when they feel guilty. You're a damn storm. And storms don't apologize for the destruction they bring. You want peace? Then make war with your habits. Make war with your softness. You've been soft for too long. It's time to kill the version of you that begged for attention, that explained himself too much, that waited for people who were never coming. Burn him, bury him, And from the ashes, drag yourself out with eyes that no longer hope. They see. Eyes that don't blink when people walk away, because now you know they were never meant to stay. People loved you when you were easy to manipulate, when your silence protected their ego. But the second you chose yourself, the second you didn't reply, didn't explain, didn't beg, oh, now you're the problem. Now you're cold. Now they miss you, but only the version of you they could use. That's not missing. That's mourning control. And you're not supposed to give them that anymore. You're not supposed to offer yourself on a silver plate just to be thrown away. You're supposed to disappear so well they question their sanity. You're supposed to glow in your own world so loud that it blinds those who doubted you. So let them talk, let them lie, let them laugh. But you move in silence, in shadows, with precision, because your story ain't done. It's just getting darker. And the darker it gets, the more dangerous you become. You know what's funny? They never see the value of silence until it becomes permanent, until the texts stay unread, until the calls go straight to voicemail, until the door they used to walk through like they owned the place gets bolted shut with cold steel and no warning. That's when it hits. That's when your silence becomes louder than every argument you ever avoided. You see, most people don't listen to your words. They listen to your distance. And when the distance starts to stretch, when you stop being available, stop being soft, stop being there, they panic. Not because they care, but because control is slipping. You were never just a person to them. You were a resource, a convenience, something to lean on when their world was on fire. But when yours caught flames, they didn't even bring water. They watched you burn and walked away like it was nothing. And now they want the old you back. The one that bled without making a sound. The one that smiled through betrayal. The one that stayed when they didn't deserve your shadow. But here's the truth. No one wants to say out loud. You were too real for them. Too raw. Too deep. You looked at people and didn't just see faces. You saw souls. And that terrified them. They weren't ready to be seen. They weren't ready for someone who didn't want their mask, but their wounds. So they ran. They mocked. They minimized you. They made you feel like you were too much, too intense, too emotional. But what they really meant was you made them confront their own emptiness. And now that you're gone, now that the echo of your absence is louder than your presence ever was, they're starting to get it. Bit by bit, they replay old messages. They stalk your silence. They wonder what version of you is being born now because they can't see you anymore. And that scares them because people fear what they can't predict. And you want motivation? Stop waiting for someone to hand it to you. No one's coming to save you. No one's knocking on your door with closure, with apologies, with clarity. You're not owed any of that. What you owe yourself is transformation. You owe yourself the revenge of becoming everything they thought you'd never be. Not for them, not to impress anyone, but to fulfill the promise you kept breaking every time you chose others over yourself. You told yourself you'd rise. You told yourself you'd stop giving chances to the same liars in new costumes. But here you are, still bleeding for people who never even bring a bandage. That ends now, right here. You want to change your life? Burn the bridge to your old self and let the flames light your new path. Because soft hearts don't survive in brutal worlds unless they learn how to be soft for themselves. They said you changed? Good. That's the goal. Change so hard they can't recognize the version of you they manipulated. Upgrade in silence. Level up when they're not watching. And when they ask, what happened? Smile. Because they happened. Their betrayal happened. Their silence happened. Their absence taught you more than their words ever could. You see, healing doesn't look pretty. It's not yoga and sunsets and forgiveness quotes. Healing is raw. It's ugly. It's nights you cry so hard your chest tightens. It's blocking numbers with shaking hands. It's deleting pictures with tears in your eyes but fire in your chest. That's real healing. Not pretending to be okay, but breaking, rebuilding, and refusing to explain any of it to people who never deserved the broken version of you in the first place. So from now on, no more warnings, no more second chances, no more explaining your worth to people who saw it and still walked away. You walk now too, but with purpose. You move like silence on a battlefield. Let them underestimate you, let them forget what you're capable of, because the greatest revenge isn't anger, it's evolution. It's becoming so unshakable, so unreachable, that they can't even speak your name without choking on regret. Let your silence be the weapon. Let your distance be the punishment. Let your glow be the revenge. And every time you feel like going back, every time you miss someone who hurt you, every time you second guess your growth, remember who you were when they had you. Remember how little they valued you. Remember how small you made yourself just to be enough for people who never even tried to understand you. Then stand up, walk forward, and never, never look back. And you know what hurts the most? It's not the betrayal. It's not even the lies. It's the realization that you were willing to give them the world while they were busy drawing maps to escape yours. That you sat there, soul bare, heart open, offering love like a lifeline, and they used it like a doormat. It's the moment you finally understood. It was never about effort, never about how much you gave, how present you were, how deep you loved. Number out. It was about how replaceable they thought you were. And that's the part they never tell you, that some people will only value you in your absence, that some won't recognize your silence as pain, but as an opportunity to disappear guilt-free. So what do you do with that kind of realization? Do you beg louder? Do you try harder? Hell no. You disappear better. You show them what absence with intention looks like. You walk away like you were never made to stay. Because loyalty without reciprocation is self-burial. And you've already died once trying to keep someone alive who wouldn't even hand you air. They didn't leave because you weren't enough. They left because your presence started asking questions their conscience couldn't answer. You loved too honestly. You stayed too faithfully. You offered too much peace in a world that only understands chaos. They didn't know what to do with that. You weren't a game. You weren't a project. You were a mirror. And people hate mirrors that reflect the parts of them they hide from the world. So they broke you, hoping your cracks would match theirs. And when they couldn't dim your light, they told everyone you were too intense, too emotional, too sensitive. But let me tell you something. They never hated you. They hated the fact that they couldn't control you. That despite the pain, despite the silence, despite the exits and excuses, you still stood with your back straight and your soul louder than their apologies. This isn't about being liked anymore. This isn't about proving your worth. You don't need validation from the same mouths that whispered your name like a secret, then denied you in public. You don't need closure from the same hands that slammed the door on your heart without looking back. You don't owe explanations to people who built their peace on your confusion. What you owe is to yourself. You owe healing. You owe power. You owe solitude that strengthens, not silence that breaks. You need to start being the person you were before the world taught you how to beg for attention. Before the rejections, before the betrayals, before you learned how to pretend you're fine just to keep the peace. Go back and find that fire. Dig it up, clean it, feed it, and then set your whole damn life ablaze with it. Because guess what? The ones who didn't see your worth weren't blind. They saw it, and they hoped you didn't. They hoped you'd keep discounting your value just to be chosen. They hoped your heart would keep forgiving, your silence would keep swallowing, your loyalty would keep bending. But that version of you is gone now, isn't it? Or at least, it should be. Because the more chances you give to ungrateful people, the more you teach them that your time is cheap. And your time is not cheap. It's the most expensive thing you own. So stop giving it to cowards who love convenience, but can't handle commitment. To people who love you in private, but betray you in silence. You weren't born to be an option. You weren't built to be background noise. You were made to be a storm they remember. So stop whispering. Stop shrinking. Stop waiting for the right moment. Create the damn moment. Become the silence that destroys their peace. Become the absence they'll feel in every laugh, in every room, in every person they try to replace you with. Let them chase cheap distractions. Let them play their little games. Let them post their little stories pretending they've moved on. Because deep down, They know exactly what they lost. And deep down, they know. It wasn't you who was lucky to have them. It was them who were lucky you ever stayed as long as you did. You want to win? Then stop trying to explain yourself to those who are committed to misunderstanding you. Stop trying to heal in the same environment that broke you. Walk out, level up, glow different, and let your silence become the loudest fuck you this world has ever seen, spoken without words, written without ink, burned into memory without mercy. And don't you dare think for a second that your kindness was the mistake. It wasn't the love you gave that broke you. It was who you gave it to. People with empty souls will always drink from your cup and curse you when it's empty. They'll demand loyalty like kings, but treat you like a pawn. That's not your failure, that's theirs. But your silence, that's your responsibility now. Your silence is no longer surrender. It's strategy. It's not weakness. It's weaponry. When you stop explaining, stop apologizing, stop giving the benefit of the doubt, that's when you become dangerous. Because a man who can sit in pain without begging for relief, that's a man who's already faced the fire and walked out colder. You need to stop bleeding in places where no one even bothers to bring a bandage. Stop trying to keep people in your life who wouldn't even notice if you vanished. Disappear and make them question whether you were even real. Make your absence a ghost that haunts every room they thought you'd always be in. They talk about loyalty like it's something they own, but they only want it when it benefits them. Loyalty to them means you staying quiet when they disrespect you. It means you remaining calm while they test your limits. It means you being available when it's convenient and silent when it's not. And when you finally speak up, when you finally say, enough, suddenly you're too much. Suddenly you're aggressive. Nah. What they mean is, they can't manipulate you anymore. They can't toy with your patience and use your love like a drug they never planned to pay for. You gave them peace, and they confused it with permission. So now you take it back. Not with noise, not with a breakdown, but with a calculated, cold withdrawal. Leave the room. Leave the message, leave the memory, and let that silence echo louder than any goodbye you could have ever spoken. You ever notice how they come back when you go quiet? When you stop showing up? When you stop texting first? That's not love, my friend. That's control. They don't miss you. They miss the version of themselves that had power over you. And when you cut that cord, when you stop feeding their ego with your presence, they feel withdrawal, not loss. Don't mistake their panic for repentance. Don't confuse their confusion for regret. Most people don't regret losing you, they regret losing access to you. And that's the difference between healing and reopening a wound. You're not here to be someone's second thought, someone's emotional crutch, someone's convenient secret. You're here to take back every piece of yourself you gave away for free. You're here to rebuild, not to reconnect. You want real strength? Then sit with your pain, not run from it. Don't numb it with distractions. Don't drown it in fake friends, pointless conversations, or validation from people who couldn't even carry your name with dignity. Sit with it. Stare it in the face. Ask it why it hurts. Let it answer. And then use that answer as fuel. Pain is the most honest teacher you'll ever have. It strips away illusions. It shows you who's real. It reveals who ran when things got heavy, and who stayed without needing to be asked. And once you've seen that truth, don't unsee it. Don't forget who switched up, who went silent, who only reached out when they felt you pulling away. Those are the same people who'll knock on your door again when your silence turns to success. And your only answer to them? Silence still. Because by then, they'll understand. The version of you they knew was a privilege, one they misused, and one they'll never touch again. So listen to this every day. Not because you need to be angry, but because you need to remember. Remember how it felt to be ignored while you were hurting. Remember how it felt to love without being loved back. Remember how many times you stayed silent just to keep the peace while chaos swallowed you whole. And let that memory push you. Let it mold you. Let it transform you into something they can't play with anymore. Because the world doesn't need another nice guy getting stepped on. The world needs more warriors, calm, cold, and calculated. Men who can walk away without a sound and still leave a legacy behind. That's you now. No more chasing, no more explaining, no more bleeding for the ungrateful. You don't need closure, you need distance. You don't need revenge, you need results. And when they ask where you went, just smile. Because the truth is, you finally arrived. You ever wonder why the ones who broke you suddenly act confused when you change? Like they didn't hear the sound of your heart cracking every time they disrespected you. Like they didn't see the look in your eyes when they chose someone else's comfort over your consistency. They saw it. They felt it. They knew what they were doing. Don't let anyone lie to you with tears when their hands are still dirty. People don't ruin what they value. They destroy what they think they can replace. And now that you've gone silent, now that your energy isn't fueling their ego, suddenly they miss you. Suddenly they realize, nah, they don't miss you. They miss control. They miss the version of you who didn't know better. The one who kept coming back. The one who blamed himself every time someone else failed to love him properly. That version of you is dead, and thank God for it. You had to become cold because being warm nearly burned you alive. You had to become distant because your presence was abused. You had to become selective because your loyalty was thrown to the dogs. And now they call you changed, like it's a bad thing. Like they didn't build this version of you with their own hands, but they did. Every ignored message, every broken promise, every lie you pretended not to notice, they were the architects of your silence. They designed your distance. And now they want the credit for breaking you, but not the consequences of losing you. But here's the thing. They don't get both. They either have access to your peace, or they live with the echo of your absence. And you don't apologize for walking away anymore. You don't explain your silence. You enforce it. There's a version of you that people never got to see because they killed him too early. The version that laughs without watching who's watching. The version that dreams without limits. The version that gives, not to be needed, but because he overflows. That version of you, he's not gone. He's waiting. Waiting behind the pain, behind the lessons, behind the silence. But here's the catch. He won't return if you keep going back to the very people who buried him. You want that version back? Then dig. Dig through your hurt. Dig through the lies you told yourself. Dig through the guilt that isn't yours to carry. You weren't too much. They were just too little to handle depth. You weren't hard to love. They were just incapable of anything beyond shallow waters. Let that sink in. You don't heal by pretending it didn't happen. You heal by acknowledging it did and deciding to grow anyway. You heal when you stop replaying conversations, stop stalking pages, stop wondering what they're doing or if they're happy. Who cares? Were they wondering about you when you were breaking apart at 3 a.m., staring at your ceiling with a chest full of unsent words and a heart full of questions? Number. They weren't. And that's all you need to know. Closure isn't something they give you. It's something you rip out of the ruins with bloody hands and a quiet mind. You heal when you stop seeking justice and start building peace. Real peace. Not the fake one you wore to survive, but the real kind. The kind you build in silence, alone, brick by brick, with no witnesses and no applause. That's what this chapter is about. That's what your silence is doing. It's building the version of you that doesn't flinch anymore when people leave. Let them wonder. Let them stalk. Let them replay old conversations, trying to decode the new you. You don't owe them access to your evolution. You don't owe them a front row seat to the empire you're building out of every piece they tried to destroy. Stay quiet, stay focused, work in silence, glow in shadows. When your peace becomes your priority, your silence becomes a shield. And when you finally rise, and you will rise, they'll come back. Not because they care, but because they're curious. Because regret sounds a lot like silence when it's echoing off the walls of a world they no longer have access to. So don't respond. Don't react. Don't return. Just move forward like a ghost in their memory and a legend in your own life. You're not here to be remembered. You're here to be unforgettable. You want to know what makes silence so powerful? It's not just the absence of noise, it's the presence of meaning. It's everything you didn't say, but they feel it anyway. It's the message between the lines, the weight behind your withdrawal. See, most people are used to noise, fights, tears, begging, screaming, explaining. That's what they expect when they cross someone with a heart. But when all they get is silence, that's when it gets loud. That's when their mind starts racing. That's when the guilt creeps in, when the denial fades, and reality punches them right in the chest. Because silence doesn't lie. Silence doesn't exaggerate. It just sits there, honest and raw. And it makes them look at themselves. That's what they fear the most. Not losing you, but facing who they were when they had you. So let them face it. Let them sit in the chaos they created and realize you're not coming back. And when they do come crawling back, and they will, they'll try to dress their manipulation as reflection. They'll say things like, "I've changed," or "I finally understand now." But don't fall for it. Change without action is decoration. Understanding without repair is manipulation. They don't want to make things right. They want to reset the cycle. They want to reopen the door just enough to get back the control they lost. Don't give it to them. Growth isn't about giving second chances to the same people with new lies. It's about protecting the version of you that learned the hard way. You don't heal by reopening the same wounds and calling it love. You heal by locking the damn door and throwing the key into the fire. Because some people weren't lessons. They were warnings. Warnings about what happens when you ignore your own worth. You see, you were never hard to love. You were just asking to be loved in a world that confuses love with convenience. People love the idea of you, the strength, the loyalty, the depth. But when it comes time to match it, to mirror the same level of commitment, they shrink. Because real love requires real work. Real love confronts. Real love holds a mirror and says, "Fix this or I walk." But you stayed too long in rooms where your silence was mistaken for approval. You kept hoping they'd change, kept giving them versions of yourself that weren't even yours anymore. You gave so much, you forgot what it felt like to be full. And when you finally broke, they called you the villain. But deep down, they know. They know who they were. They know what they did. And that's why they can't face you now. Not because you're cold, but because they're ashamed. So stop waiting for an apology that won't come. Stop craving closure from mouths that only know how to close doors, not open wounds. Your healing doesn't require their participation. You don't need them to say sorry for you to forgive. You forgive by forgetting, by outgrowing, by outbuilding the pain they left behind. That's what your silence is doing. It's planting roots in peace. It's building something they can't touch, something they can't sabotage. And while they watch from behind their screens, pretending they're fine, pretending they moved on, you're living proof of what happens when a person chooses themselves. You're not just healing, you're evolving, quietly, powerfully, permanently. And maybe one day they'll tell someone about you. Maybe they'll lie and say they let you go. Maybe they'll tell the truth and admit they never thought you'd leave. But you won't care. Because by then, your silence will have turned into legacy. Your absence will be a story they can't rewrite. And you'll be too far ahead, too focused, too free, too whole to ever look back. That's the beauty of becoming untouchable. That's the power of silence. And that's why, no matter what happens next, listen to this every day. Not because it sounds good, but because it's the truth most people won't say. The world tried to break you. People tried to play you. But you turned pain into discipline, silence into power, and loss into fuel. And now, you don't just survive, you haunt. You ever notice how they rewrite the story once you leave? How suddenly you were difficult, too intense, too cold, too distant. They never say why you became that way. They never mention the nights you waited by the phone, the times you swallowed your pride just to keep the peace, the silent tears behind every fake smile you wore to keep their world from crumbling while yours was already rubble. No, they don't talk about that part. They don't talk about the manipulation they wrapped in charm, the guilt they disguised as love, the times they left you empty and called it space, because to admit that would mean taking accountability. And cowards don't take accountability. They paint pictures that make them look holy while you bleed in the shadows like a ghost they used to know. But guess what? That version of you, the one who kept trying to understand people who didn't even understand themselves, is gone, dead and buried. And the silence you walk in now, that's your armor, that's your revenge, that's your resurrection. Because let's make one thing clear, your silence is not weakness. It's warfare. It's discipline. It's strategy. It's the calm before the storm they never see coming. You see, when you were loud, they tuned you out. When you begged, they rolled their eyes. When you explained yourself, they weaponized your words. But now that you've gone quiet, now that you've pulled your energy away, now that your eyes no longer carry questions but conclusions, they don't know how to handle you. That's the real power. When your presence was comforting, but your absence is haunting. You don't have to say a word. You don't have to throw shade, expose receipts, or burn bridges. Number, you vanish. You upgrade. You rise. And the silence you leave behind, that's what chokes them. That's what keeps them up at night. Because now they have to deal with the truth, and you're no longer there to soften it. You're done being the one who cares more. Done being the one who overthinks every move just to avoid making someone else uncomfortable. You've done enough. You were enough. But they were too blind, too broken, too busy feeding their ego to notice. So now you're stepping into a version of yourself that doesn't ask, doesn't wait, doesn't beg. You move different now. You speak less. You watch more. You trust slower. Because lessons carve themselves into your skin, and every scar became scripture. You learned the hard way that love without respect is manipulation, that presence without effort is a lie, and that the loudest ones are usually the most hollow. So now, you speak the language of silence. You let your energy talk. You let your peace intimidate. And if they can't handle that, let them leave. Let them go. Let them watch the door close and know it's not opening again. You're not the same. You'll never be the same. And that's not something to grieve. That's something to celebrate. Growth isn't pretty. It's not poetic. It's painful. It's sitting alone in a room full of memories, deciding not to pick up the phone, not to send that message, not to check their story. It's reminding yourself that you deserve peace more than you crave closure, that you deserve loyalty without having to audition for it, that you deserve love that doesn't feel like survival. And once you get there, once that switch flips inside your soul, there's no going back. You don't chase, you don't explain, you don't perform, you exist. And your existence alone, that's the threat. That's the storm. That's the reminder to the world that you can't break a person who rebuilt himself from pieces others left behind. So let them talk. Let them lie. Let them pretend. Because they'll never find your depth in shallow waters. They'll never find your fire in cold hearts. And they'll never feel your silence without it burning. You were the sanctuary. You were the storm. You were the lesson they refused to learn. And now, you're the reminder they'll never forget. So listen to this every day, not to remember the pain, but to remember the power it gave you. You're not here to be liked. You're here to be respected. And if your silence is the only thing they remember, let it echo forever. And the part they'll never admit, the part that keeps them up at night when everything's quiet, is that you were the realest thing that ever happened to them. You didn't show up pretending. You didn't offer some edited, filtered version of yourself. You came raw, present, loyal, and they couldn't handle it because real love, real presence is rare and terrifying. It holds up a mirror, it exposes weakness, it demands growth. But they weren't ready to grow. They weren't ready to be seen without their mask. So they pushed you away, hoping to replace you with something easier, something shallow, something that wouldn't make them confront who they really are. But now that it's gone, now that your energy isn't available on demand, they're left with cheap imitations of connection, fast flings, superficial conversations. And no matter how loud they laugh, no matter how many fake smiles they post, deep down, they feel it. The void, the silence, you. That's why your silence is more than just the absence of sound. It's a presence. It lingers. It confronts them when they're alone, when the world stops spinning, when the noise dies down. Your silence holds a mirror up to their choices, and every reflection is stained with regret. They'll try to forget. They'll try to move on. But memory has a funny way of showing up uninvited, especially when you've wronged someone who only wanted your good, especially when you lose someone who never wanted to win, just to build with you. And now, that builder, that solid, present, ride or die soul, you're gone, not with hatred, not with revenge, but with stillness. And that's what kills them the most, that they can't even blame you anymore. You didn't explode. You didn't beg. You just vanished. And now every silence feels like punishment. But don't let that guilt fool you into going back. Don't let their sudden check-ins or late-night messages trick you. They're not reaching out because they care. They're reaching out because your silence made them realize they lost control. Don't you dare hand it back. You've worked too hard to rebuild, too hard to find your peace, to sharpen your focus. Don't let a single apology drag you back into the storm you had to crawl your way out of. Because let's be honest, if they truly valued you, you wouldn't be hearing from them now. You'd have never had to hear silence in the first place. Respect doesn't come with delay. Loyalty doesn't need reminders. And love, real love, doesn't ask you to shrink. This is your time now. Your silence is a boundary, a shield. It's the message they never expected but needed most. It's the reminder that not everyone stays no matter how much you give. And that you're no longer the person who needs to. You're not the fixer anymore. You're not the healer for broken people who refuse to bleed for you. You're not the therapist for manipulators. You're not the comfort zone for those who run from real. You've grown out of all that. You've built a life now that demands better, that expects more, that won't settle for less than mutual. And anyone who doesn't rise to that standard, they can watch from the distance your silence built. Keep walking. Keep working, keep building in the dark, because the ones who never saw you coming will be the loudest when you arrive. The ones who laughed at your silence will choke on your success. But don't stop to prove it. Don't pause to perform. Let your growth speak for itself. Let your life be the reply. Let your silence remain the loudest thing you've ever said. Because in a world obsessed with noise, the ones who master silence, they run everything. So if today you're tired, broken, doubting if it's worth it, listen to this again and again until the pain becomes purpose, until the silence becomes sacred, until the past becomes fuel. You didn't survive all that to go back. You didn't learn all that to repeat the same cycles. You're not the same person they hurt. You're not the same man who begged to be seen. You're not built to stay broken. You're built to rise, quietly, completely, forever. They say time heals everything, But that's a lie they tell people to make them wait in silence while the damage rots from the inside. Time doesn't heal. Awareness does. Action does. Cutting people off when they no longer serve your growth does. Time just gives you enough distance to realize what you should have done a long time ago. And here's the part they never told you. Healing isn't always soft. Sometimes it's ruthless. Sometimes it looks like ignoring a call you used to wait all day for. Sometimes it means deleting an entire history just to find your own name again. Healing means choosing yourself so hard that it offends the people who are banking on your self-abandonment. And that's where your silence comes in, not as a passive retreat, but as an execution. You're no longer explaining your worth. You're not reminding people how to love you. You're not begging to be understood. You're moving like a shadow, quiet, calculated, and cold. Because survival taught you one thing: your peace isn't up for negotiation anymore. And now they sit with that silence, don't they? Now they feel the difference. You were the one who kept it all together. The glue in rooms full of cracked glass and empty promises. You stayed when your heart was bleeding. You gave when you were empty. And for what? For people who made you feel guilty for having needs, who called you dramatic when you needed help, who disappeared the moment you stopped being useful. No more. Your silence now is the funeral for every version of you that begged to be seen. And they're the ones mourning because they realized too late that your energy wasn't something they deserved. It was a gift, one they took for granted. And gifts, once taken back, never look the same again. They'll call you cold now, harsh, detached. Let them. They didn't see the storm it took to build this version of you. They weren't there when you cried into your own hands, alone, tired of being strong for everyone else. They didn't witness the nights you had to remind yourself you matter when the silence in your phone was louder than any scream. They didn't hold your hand when you had to break your own heart just to save your soul. So, no. They don't get to label this new you. They don't get to comment on your distance when they built it. This silence isn't punishment. It's a boundary. It's the wall that says, I won't shrink for you anymore. And if that makes you the villain in their story, so be it. Let them paint you with dirty hands. You're not here to be loved by everyone. You're here to be respected, even if that respect comes in the form of silence and distance. And maybe, just maybe, one day they'll whisper your name like a secret they regret. Maybe they'll tell someone about the one who got away, the one who gave without limits, loved without fear, and walked away without looking back. Maybe they'll scroll through your old photos and realize they watched something rare walk out the door and said nothing. And maybe that guilt will eat them alive in the quiet when no one else is around. But that's not your problem anymore. You don't live in the past. You don't exist in the places you've outgrown. You're not a prisoner of their opinions. You're not their redemption arc. You're your own story now, raw, dark, powerful. And your silence, it's not just absence, it's revenge, it's healing. It's the loudest scream you never had to say out loud. So keep going, keep building, keep moving in silence. Don't give in to nostalgia. Don't resurrect what hurt you just because your memory is trying to romanticize it. Your past was real. The pain was real. The lessons were real. And now it's time to make your success even realer. Let the world wonder. Let them whisper. Let them question how you did it. And smile, because they'll never figure it out. Not really. All they'll know is this: you disappeared, and when you returned, you were untouchable. And that's what silence was made for.